was a good friend of the show, Colin Gow, with his song, which is our theme song, officially licensed podcast. I'm Steve Shoney. I'm here today with, as always, not as always. Sometimes you miss. Sometimes
yeah, I guess I do miss sometimes.
But my sidekick, the city attorney, Darren Shulman.
I like how I've been demoted not only to sidekick, which I've accepted, but now when I decide to show up,
right.
You're not even here all the time.
You're not even here all the time.
I missed one show.
Exactly.
I think I got sick, but
No, I think it's been like 2 or 3.
No dedication for me.
No,
it's good to be back. By the way,
it is good to be back.
Summer break has been harsh for me.
We recorded. It felt like 50 episodes in May and June, and then so we had a good release schedule to get us through July. But we haven't recorded one of these for a while, and I'm very excited about our guest today. I am very excited.
Wow.
He is very
that's
excited.
big.
So,
until you admitted you
that's
hadn't listened to an episode before, and that kind of cast a pall on Steve.
I know. I was like, what? So
I apologize. I apologize for not listening to an episode before. I will leave here and go listen to one.
Yeah, you
How's
will,
that?
because we're going to write it into a contract. For you.
I'm surprised it wasn't in there, Steve.
I put that on our legal counsel.
Silly me! I didn't think to add.
He's missing episodes, and he didn't put this in the
All
contract.
city contracts shall have a podcast listening downloads clause.
So with us today is Nate Green. Nate is a principal. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. That sounds good.
With Montrose Group. Nate recently joined the city team as a contractor, taking over economic development. We thought it would be a good idea to kind of, since Nate's part of the team, part of the external-facing team, we thought it'd be a good idea to have Nate come on and talk about what he does, talk about himself a little bit. Nate and I have known each other since
1999, I think.
Is that
2000. That's when I started it. It was in 1999.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a couple years.
Pre-Y2K.
Pre-Y2K. Wow.
I just wanted to put it in perspective.
So
I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they were talking about Y2K and how that was a big deal, right? Like the clock's turning and how I wasn't going to do it. And like how technology today is so crazy and we're worried about AI. But back then, that's what we were worried about, clocks. Like the clocks were the problem.
Worried about the numbers not being able to go.
So we'll get into the regular, but like literally on January 1st, 2000.
Yeah.
I crossed the border into Canada to go live in Canada for a year. Remember? So Nate and I worked together at the Ohio Department of Development. And I went and the state used to have an office in Toronto.
Yeah.
And I went and ran that office for a year.
Yeah.
And I literally, moving van full of stuff, I'm just like, you know what? My guess is it'll be a pretty quiet day at the border. And it was a pretty quiet day at the border.
You worked for the state of Ohio in the Toronto branch?
In the Toronto office, yeah.
There's a Toronto office?
We used to have 11 offices around the world.
All around the world.
I'm learning something today.
Yeah. And I mean, the Toronto, it was huge because there were so many companies, there were so many manufacturing companies that would come over they were coming into Ohio because they were they were automotive manufacturing. So it was a big deal. Steve, they got rid of all those offices. You know, that John Kasich administration?
Yeah, I know.
I worked there.
I know.
It wasn't my fault, but that was,
No, I remember, so Nate and I, our careers have run in parallel.
Yep.
You go to an office, Nate kills
it. Yeah.
No, but no, we worked in different offices in the Department of Development for a while.
Yep.
He left a division that I took over.
Yep.
I don't think it was because you heard I might be taking it over.
Well, maybe. Maybe, Steve. You did ask me to come back twice. You and Barbash. Right?
That's right. I did.
Yeah. And I had been in my other job for like a year, and I'm like, guys,
he's like, hell no.
Come on.
and then once I left, he's like, oh, that looks like a pretty good job. I think I'm going to take Shoney's old job.
I went back and took it over. Exactly.
And then you worked at Jobs Ohio for a while, and then you joined the Montrose Group and started working with
in 2015. Yep.
All right, we've gone way off script.
But you led me back to the script. Can you tell us what the Montrose Group is?
Sure. We're a economic development consulting firm and government relations firm. So we do consulting for communities like Upper Arlington on economic development issues, whether it's business retention,
also known as retention.
Retention word. There we go. Retention.
Trademarked.
Hashtag retention.
You're going to have a session at IDC on that?
I think so. We help communities with marketing. We help them with economic development incentives agreements, those kind of things. We also, on the flip side of that, help private entities. So we have companies that are growing and they're going after tax incentives, or they're looking for space. We help them with that. We also help a lot of developers get through their projects, whether it's zoning, annexations, and then we help them get TIFs done and tax abatements done and negotiate all that. So we also have a government relations side of our business. I'm not engaged in that at all. I don't want to go to the State House. I'm a half a block away, but I don't want to go over there. But we have somebody who does all that. So that's what we do.
So we start, now that we're 5 minutes in, we start.
Now that we're warming them up, we can warm them up.
We start every podcast with something we call, that we stole from a couple sports podcasts.
Yeah.
Start, bench, cut.
Start, bench, cut. Okay.
Now the concept is we're going to give you 3 things.
Yeah.
And one of them's your starter.
Okay.
One of them's on your bench, so they're like part of the team.
Is this on? I've heard this before, but I can't remember what podcast it's on.
We don't want to name check them because they'll sue us.
Okay. All right. Never mind.
And then the third one they got to cut. So.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, I mean, like,
well,
maybe
do
Shaq does it on the big podcast, and I think they might do.
Well,
NBA Twitter releases them sometimes.
Well, and I think they do it. Tony Kornheiser does a podcast.
And
Wilbon will be on there every once in a while, and I think they do. He does it on there with Wilbon.
There's a couple places.
Yeah.
I mean, we were first, I think. No one
Clearly.
can prove otherwise.
Yeah. So you are a proud graduate of Bowling Green State University.
Absolutely.
So Darren and I,
we thought it would be nice to like throw some sunshine your way.
So Darren grew up in Oxford, and as you know, I'm a very proud graduate of Ohio University.
Absolutely.
So we're MAC rivals here.
I got my MBA from OU, Steve. I don't know if you know that.
I did know that. I'd forgotten that.
Yep.
So we looked at the Bowling Green State University Athletics Hall of Fame.
It was interesting.
We are going to give you.
Now the real challenge is whether I'm going to know any of these people.
Well, you'll know maybe one of them.
You'll know one of them.
Yeah.
So the 3 we have are Antonio Daniels.
Who was there when I was there.
Right.
Yep.
I thought that might be the case.
Yep.
Oral Hershiser.
Yeah, who was a fraternity brother of mine. He was a SIG up at Bowling Green. Yep.
A couple years before you.
Not at the same time,
I think he graduated in 85.
Wow.
Right?
Well, according to my research,
78?
Class of 80.
Oh, okay. So it was before that. So many years. I graduated in 1997. But
so you look younger than Oral Hershiser.
But we had a picture of him pitching for who did he play for the most? Was it
I would say
the Dodgers. Was it?
The Dodgers. So we had a picture of him playing for the Dodgers in the SIG up house.
All right. So then this is a reflection both on Steve and my background and the dearth of the third options.
We went really deep, and we tried to find somebody else that the names you could recognize.
It got hard. No offense to BG alums out there.
There's not a lot of depth in our sport. I mean, you could have gone hockey.
We went as deep as we
could.
So
the 2 best we could find were Ken Arndt, whose claim to fame was that he played 2 games in the majors for the Oakland A's.
I don't know Ken.
Nobody does.
Sorry,
Ken, if you're listening.
Or not Ken Arndt, Larry Arndt.
I don't know Larry. You know what? My dad would probably know him. My dad is also a proud alum.
Oh, okay. And then the other one,
and this
Andy's old.
Probably is.
This one is the one that is your third that you have to do start bench cut. Ken Shoney.
Ken Shoney?
Do you know Ken?
No.
Oh, well,
is he related, Steve?
No, because it's Shoney with an I at the end instead of Y.
Like the rest? Oh no, Shoney's with the rest.
So before I make you pick your start bench cut, I am going to give you the background on Ken Shoney.
Okay, good.
Aside from maybe being related to Steve back in the
back in the motherland, it got mixed up at Ellis Island.
In the motherland,
he arrived at Bowling Green in 1965 as the supervisor of maintenance and grounds for the athletic program.
Okay.
He was in that capacity for 35 years, and he didn't go unnoticed. He has been honored in numerous ways, including earning the Michael Ferrari Award for service to the school, being named an honorary member of the Vardis City BG Club.
Wow.
And he was awarded the 1991 Ohio Turf Grass Association Award for Professional Excellence.
Wow.
So
he's actually a big deal.
Your start bench cut is Oral Hershiser, Antonio Davis, or Ken Shoney.
How do you with those 3? I mean, we're obviously going to start Ken Shoney, right?
I mean, you can't do anything without Fields, right?
Exactly, right? He's the guy. And then you're going to bench Oral Hershiser and cut Antonio Daniels.
That's a bold but probably accurate description.
I think that's fair.
I mean, Oral Hershiser had a better career than Antonio Daniels in their respective professional careers.
Yeah.
Antonio Daniels was there when I was there. He's a really good dude, but You got to go with that. And Shoney, I mean, he's Shoney.
He's Shoney. And I love how you got picked up on that because Steve was going to make you pick him if you didn't.
See, he was going. That's why I already knew it was coming.
He was going to drop
telegraphing that.
He was going to drop the contractual reference again.
Yeah.
So I would love to interview Oral Hershiser and be like, hey, you are a Hall of Fame baseball pitcher, but you did come in second behind Ken Shoney in our radio show.
He might know him.
He might actually.
He probably does.
He probably does because they I mean, the baseball field. Ken Shoney had to be the guy taking care of the field.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like, in all seriousness, I'm sure Ken Shoney, to make a list like this, it was probably like the institution, the guy who everybody knew.
Yeah.
Everybody loved him. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
And by the way, if Ken Shoney is listening, although you have no tie down for Arlington, we would allow him to come on the show if he's listening.
Absolutely,
we would. Even though the name's spelled differently. So
and he's got to be 80 years old.
Probably never been here or even heard of Arlington.
I don't know.
I mean, he joined the university
in
1965 and then worked there for 35 more years. I think.
I'm going to guess. He's in his 80s.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say he's in his 80s.
He's good. He's good, as far as we know.
He's good.
He was probably born in like 1945.
So if Ken, if you're living down at First Community Village or in one of the other facilities here in Upper Arlington, love to have you on.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
And he won. He got another award. We got to call Bowling Green and be like, he was picked as the start on.
We should call the president. We'll call him.
Yeah, I'm sure you got that hookup right.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know him.
That was a good warm-up, and he answered correctly.
That was
disagreements.
I'll tell you what, it's a lot of pressure going forward for the next question, though.
So, so you talked a little bit about what Montrose does.
Yep.
How's this thing work where you're working for multiple communities and, typically this is done where what we used to do, we used to have somebody on staff who, I'm calling the city, and I'm going to get a city employee who's helping me through this stuff.
Well, I think it works, as you know, Steve, it works different in every place, right? And every community needs different things, and every community has different things. I think the way that it works for us is, here I'm your main point of contact, but in other places I may not be. It may be another one of our staff members. And from just a pure how we manage it, all of our economic development team members are involved in, those efforts. And I think, at least from how we manage it, but then also I think because of that, we bring more expertise in economic development than one person can. You're lucky here in UA because you're here, Steve. No, not to totally kiss up to you, but
I enjoyed the Shoney being number one, but saying nice things about this Steve, I can't go.
No, but not every community has a guy that used to be the development director for the city of Columbus, right? So that is something different than in other places. But what we and that's unique here. But what we bring in other communities is that we have staff members who some of them have as much experience as me, some of them don't. Some of them are in a year, year and a half. So that's how we manage that. But from a day-to-day perspective, I think from the outside, certainly in UA, their point of contact should be to, either you or me or one of your planning staff. And it shouldn't really look a whole lot different than it did before. They just know that they're getting the same level of service and that I'm the person to call if they have a question about economic development, how we can help them grow their business, whatever the case may be.
So when you and I, back in the day when you and I were starting out, the economic development was all about tell me what your power capacity is, tell me what your gas capacity is, tell me what your water capacity is, and tell me how far you are from a highway, whether it was an industrial project or whether it was an office project or anything.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about how you've seen things evolve over the last 25 years of.
We're just young. We're still young.
We just started really young.
I mean, you were in college with Oral Hershiser, apparently.
Obviously.
Maybe not as young as we think.
What I would say, and I say this a lot when I give presentations. One of the biggest things I think has changed is the discussion about quality of life. Also, the discussion about housing. When we started 25 years ago, and even when I was the development director of Pickaway County, we talked all about quality of life. We have a great quality of life, blah, blah, blah. We have great parks. We've got amenities, which was true in most communities, but companies really didn't. I don't want to say they didn't care, but it was like of the top 10 things, it was number 12 when they picked a location. Today, it's number 2 or 3. Quality of life, the amenities in a community are that high up when companies are looking to completely, relocate a headquarters or build a new headquarters, or they're looking to move from one community, to another. The quality of life and what their workers, the things that their workers can do during work, after work, has completely changed. And that landscape, and it really has. I mean, we do now in our strategic plans, we do a quality of life index around that because we've recognized in working with communities that that's important, and we've recognized in site selection that's important. So that has completely changed. I would also say kind of part and parcel of that is housing, right? Like housing, if you don't have places for people to live, how are you going to have employees for those companies?
And are they aware of that concept? Like, are they looking at
companies
that?
Are definitely aware of it. I mean, we're doing a one of the other things we do is housing studies for counties or communities, and a lot of that's figuring out demand. And the reason they're aware of it now, or the reason I can tell you they're aware of it, is because in those communities where we're doing it, the number one employer is the first organization we talk to, because they realize that there's not enough homes in that community a lot of times for them to recruit more people. So companies absolutely realize it. I think to a certain extent, well, not even a certain extent, I know that in our region, One Columbus, Kenny McDonald, he's very aware from it. They just did that McKinsey study that they came out with 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. They are very aware that housing is a big deal. And yeah, it's great to have Intel. That's amazing, right? But you still have to have places for people to live.
Right.
And we don't have enough housing today for all those people to live.
So do you think that elected officials and then community members get it, understand it, or I will tell you, there's a really interesting, and we've talked about this before. Yeah. There's an interesting dynamic here where yes, there's the traditional not in my backyard NIMBY, but there's also a fairly substantial yes, I want it in my backyard YIMBY movement as well, but it's not as big a deal here because we're landlocked.
Yeah. It's a good question. I think it depends where you are, right? Elected officials, some of them, the state legislature is not as aware as they should be, right? There's money in the budget now for housing, but it's because the administration pushed for it. I'm not sure the state legislature understands it. On a case-by-case basis, it definitely depends where you go. There are communities in our region that there's school districts that don't want more kids,
right? Which
baffles me, because the only way you stay relevant is to have more people and to keep filling seats, right? Even if you're only growing by 1 or 2% a year, that's better than losing 1 or 2% a year. And I've got other communities I deal with that would love to have more kids.
Yeah.
I think in the public, the public doesn't understand it by and large. I really don't think so. I think that they do if they're looking for a house.
Yeah.
If they see a housing development go up that's a multifamily, and they look at it and they're like, well, I don't want that next to me. Well, then they're like, so they don't get it. So, but I do think it's talked about more and more all the time. So I think it's more relevant, or there's more education about it today than there was 3 years ago, and there will be more about it in the next 2 years, I would guess.
So you brought up the state legislature, and it made me think of a question. How different is, and again, you and I both worked at the state, and it used to be I was all around the state, and I knew what was going on everywhere, and I could tell the differences between the regions, and I'm just not out there enough. How different is it working in Central Ohio when you're doing projects here versus when you're doing projects in other parts of the state?
Central Ohio still, it always has, I think, Steve, had a collaborative nature to the way they do business. the way they do economic development. We talk about the Columbus way, right? And that's, some people snicker at it. Some people are like, that's ridiculous. But the truth is, and Mayor Ginther talks about it. I mean, he talks about it all the time. I mean, that is true. I think that there is the Columbus way, and a lot of that is, how do we get together and figure it out? Purely in the weeds economic development mode is that, right? The Mid Ohio Development Exchange is all the economic development people coming together, and they get 50 to 70 people at their meetings, right?
Right.
Other parts of the state do not work that way. Cleveland does not work that way. Cincinnati does not work that way. Cincinnati has grown. I mean, they've had growth, and they're kind of keeping steady. I think they probably are a little more progressive, have a progressive mindset about what they need to do. Cleveland, I mean, I love Cleveland. It's a great place, right? I love going there. I love the sports teams there. Yeah. I'm an Indians fan and a Browns fan.
So the other start, should we give them the Browns start bench cut?
Oh, yeah. Do you remember it?
It was Browns number
one pick, or first round draft pick.
First round draft pick, quarterbacks. Oh. Baker.
Yeah.
Johnny Manziel.
Football and
Johnny Football.
Was it Couch?
Was it Tim Couch?
Was it Tim Couch?
Oh man. Well,
that was like a more painful question.
I'd start Baker. I'd bench Couch and just don't even remember Johnny Football. Just not even cut. Happened. Just don't. Yeah, we should have just never had him on the team.
It's kind of like when a coach cheats, they like just get rid of the whole record. Yeah, like,
that's right.
He is gone.
He's gone.
Yeah,
he's gone.
Yeah, that's that. That game was so bad, we're just not going to talk about it.
Exactly.
We're going to burn the tape.
We'll burn the tape. It never existed.
Sorry, you were going.
No, but that's okay. But I think
we're both Bengals fans, and you gave us the opportunity to.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've been just ribbing you with sports today.
Hey, it's all right. I mean, as long as the Bengals aren't playing the Browns, I'm a fan. Same with the Reds. I'm a Reds fan unless they're playing the Indians and they don't play, or the Guardians. I'm sorry, unless they unless they're playing each other. But Steve, to your point, all the parts of the state work differently.
Yeah.
Right. Central Ohio, I mean, it works the best. We're here. It works the best. And I say that to other places around the state. They hate it. Every place else hates Columbus. It's accurate. And a lot of times when we go to other places, I don't even talk about.
Should we start calling it the Columbus? The Columbus region, and then.
But would we get sued by the Ohio State University?
Yeah, I think next time we talk to Kenny, I think we should tell him just to help our reputation around the state, we should start calling ourselves the Columbus region.
Yeah, that would be that. Yeah, everybody would really love that.
Yeah.
We can coin lots of things on this show today. We're coming up with words and new
words.
Yeah,
it's exciting. I mean, this is
have
exciting stuff.
Possibly a basic question, because you two are definitely geeking out on economic development, which I'm enjoying to see after a couple episodes where I got to talk about comic books.
Which I know nothing about. So
we will not go there.
So Darren Darren annually goes to Comic-Con.
Oh, so you are a big
did you host any sessions, or did you moderate?
Last year I did. This year they didn't accept my proposal.
So and he and his wife, and how old's Master P now?
4 years old now. Master P's 4.
Master P.
Master P. Parker. His
daughter,
I know,
Parker.
But
that's Master P is
named after
the rapper Master P.
No, after Peter Parker.
Oh, okay.
Her name's Parker after Peter Parker. Master P is a rapper. Yes.
Anyway, they take Parker and dress Parker up in multiple outfits, all of which were just adorable. Only if you could teach her to not smile when she's dressed as Wednesday.
She was Wednesday Addams.
She shouldn't smile. She's
just a happy girl.
She's 4, right?
Yeah.
How do you tell a 4-year-old not to smile and then they start crying?
Yeah, you can't. Right.
So anyway, my nerdiness aside, a lot of people think of economic development, and we think about the things we've been talking about today. Hey, we're going to get a big car company to come here. We're going to get Intel, but can you talk about what economic development means for small businesses, and what we can do for I don't know, what's the phrase, DBEs, WBEs, MBEs?
Sure.
Talk about that, sort of lower level stuff.
Yeah, the biggest. So I'll take it one step back, and then we'll go into the small business stuff. 80% of new jobs and new investment in any community in any part of the country comes from existing businesses. So they are the most important part of any economic development strategy. Small businesses, MBE, DBEs, their biggest struggle is capital. Always, right? And the biggest challenge with minority business is access to that capital, right?
And by capital, you mean the money to buy your equipment, get started.
Yep, exactly. Thanks for clarifying, Steve. But that is the biggest challenge, and so the biggest thing we can do from an economic development perspective is help them figure out ways to find the money to either start their business or grow their business. The minority businesses, women-owned businesses, their challenge is even greater than that. If you grew up in Upper Arlington and you want to start a business, you probably know somebody that has $10,000 that will loan it to you or grant it to you to start your business. If you grew up in Linden, and I don't know what the median income there is, but it's not as high as in UA, you probably don't know somebody that has $10,000 that can give you that money to start your business. So there's obviously a gap there, right? We still need to help all those people in UA start their business, but more importantly, once they do that, grow their business. And then for those minority women-owned businesses, we need to help them just even find the capital to start their business, because they can't call somebody and say, hey, I need that money. It's a big deal. Entrepreneurship, it gets overlooked by economic development a lot, but it's huge. I mean, that's what, you look at CompuServe, which was here when it started in the 70s.
I think we're coming up on the 50th anniversary.
So the 70s.
Yeah.
But those were entrepreneurs that started that business, right? Mm-hmm. And that's, in order for any community to thrive, you need that continual entrepreneurship and growth to create more.
And unfortunately, I don't think I meet any of the minority disadvantaged business, but if I am somebody in that category and I don't have that $10,000, and I might be considering Upper Arlington, where do I go? What could I be thinking about as possibilities?
Well, you call Steve or you call me first. And then what we will do is the city itself, I would say we don't have resources today to do that. And that's not to say that we wouldn't. It's just there's not programs for that. But what we will do is we'll talk to the ECDI, which is the Economic and Community Development Institute. That's all they do. They provide, we call them microloans. They provide microloans to people, loans that are below, I think, $25,000. They'll help, and the other important thing they will do is help them with business coaching, which is just as important as giving them money. You can give somebody $10,000, and if they don't know how to run a business,
buy $10,000.
Exactly, right. So we will do that. We will also, if they're a little bit larger, we have access to other programs, like the Columbus Franklin County Finance Authority has these great revolving loan funds that they do. They're kind of in $500,000 increments, but they'll do $25,000 up to $500,000. So that's another area that we can help those kind of businesses get tied in.
And I think one of the things that Nate has been helping me go back through, because it's been a couple of years since I've done this, is relearn that all the resources are out there. Sometimes it's just a matter of helping somebody navigate to them.
Absolutely. And yeah, because it's hard. They may not know where they are or what they need, and just getting them to those resources and telling them, hey, here's what you have to provide to get that financing. That's like half the battle.
So basically, if someone's got an idea or a small business they want to grow, they can call, and there's lots of resources and things.
Yeah, we can help them out. Absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people don't even think they can even get into Up Arlington, so they don't even bother to call. So
no, I agree, and I think that anybody that has it's a great market. You've got a lot of people that want to buy stuff here, right? So if you have an idea that people want to buy, it doesn't really matter who you are. Come on in, and we'll try to help you get your business going or get it growing.
All right. So we finish. This has been great. We finish every podcast with 2 questions.
Okay.
What do you love about UA?
Yep.
What would you change?
So I will tell you what I love, and this is the people, truthfully. I've been here a lot, right? I don't live here, but I've been here.
There are 3 golf courses, and you have been known to spend a little time on a golf course.
A little bit. That experience aside from the golf courses. I always think when you go in a community and you walk down the street and people have their head up and they say hi to you, that's a friendly place. That's the way I feel when I'm here. You walk around or you go to the coffee shop, Crimson Cup, right? You go over there, or you go into Collins Coffee. I know that they're not going to be around much longer, but you go in there and they're friendly people, and not just the people that are serving you, but the people that are in line or whatever. They're friendly. That's what I love about coming to UA, because you feel like you're a part of it even if you're not here, right? What would I change? This is probably not the actual change to the answer, but I think what I would encourage is continue to revitalize the community. The Arlington Gate, the Kingsdale properties, those are awesome redevelopment projects. We know, I mean, Kingsdale was a dead shopping mall, for lack of a better word. That had to be redeveloped. Arlington Gate was probably a tired property, I would call it, that needed to have something done to it. And I think, and that's not something I would change. I just would say that's something we need to continue to encourage in UA, is that revitalization of properties, because you mean, like anything, with people or with communities or with businesses, if you stay the same, it's going to go downhill eventually. But if things continue to change and get better, it's going to grow, and more people are going to, or people are going to want to continue to come here. So that would be my, not necessarily change, but just continue to do.
And a lot of times we'll talk about it as evolving. We need to continue to evolve, because you're right. Communities don't stay the same.
They can't.
No, they either rise or they decline. There's no in between.
That's right. And I think, to your point, Steve, as they change, and if they don't make a goal of revitalizing, they're going to decline. Yeah. It's just that's what happens. Buildings over 50 years don't remain the same, and they go from being Class A buildings to Class C. It's what happens.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, listen, man, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
You did not know what you were getting into, but you rolled with the punches.
You did very well. We're happy.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no,
we're
great.
Happy
to
it's
have
a lot
you
of fun.
On the team, and look forward to continuing to work together.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.